Perfect.
Welcome back to the Horrornaut, guys. I'm Haley, and this is episode freaking 9. I can't believe we've made it this far already. I swear to God, every episode I record, I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe we're 9 episodes into this. This week, there's been a lot of talk about movies and horror on this channel, but the real question is, what actually makes a movie a scary movie? Because I wouldn't technically consider all horror movies scary movies. It's kind of like a cucumber's a pickle, but a pickle's not a cucumber kind of situation. But hopefully this week I'll be able to give you my opinions on the difference between these two movies. So now when you go to watch a horror movie, you'll know, am I going to be scared? Am I going to be like all freaked out? Or am I going to feel disgusted and want to cry for the rest of the week? Because that is the sincere difference between a horror movie and a scary movie. So let's get started. So what makes a movie scary? And what makes a movie disturbing? Or what makes a movie like, just a horror movie? That is like the biggest discussion I love to have with myself internally and also with my friends. When someone asks me for like a scary movie recommendation, the first thing I typically think of is like jump scares and something that actually like startles you. That's what a scary movie is considered. I always like to bring up The Conjuring, Insidious, Paranormal Activity, even things like The Blair Witch as scary movies. Ghosts and demons and possessions are usually a lot of films that people choose to insert jump scares just because they are cheap and easy to use. But in my opinion, that is scarier rather than something that's more of a slow burn and psychological. Those are just two completely different things in my opinion. Also, gore is not necessarily considered scary because you have gore in like a possession movie where the girl's like breaking all her bones and cracking and turning around and screaming at the camera. But you also have heavy gore like in Midsummer where the guy gets his head bashed in by the hammer. But for some reason, it doesn't incite the same feeling as it would in a scary movie because I consider Midsummer like a disturbing slow burn movie. So if somebody wants to watch something where they're actually going to be scared, I wouldn't recommend Midsummer, if that makes sense. Slow burns and psychological and stuff like that, where you really have to rely on the story to incite that feeling of disturbance and horror, is not scary. I would consider those I wouldn't qualify all these as disturbing movies, but that's more in the aspect of horror in itself. A horror movie is just all around going to have that dark overtone that's creepy and gives you just kind of an unsettling feeling. What's a good way to explain this? I'll give you my example. I like disturbing movies. I like a really good slow burn, good story. So when I go into a horror movie, I want to be disturbed. So there's really two different types of ways you can watch a horror movie. Do you want to be disturbed and grossed out and like really questioning who you are? Or do you want to be scared to like open your doors at night because you're freaked out? I think those are two really cool things about horror because there's so much you can do with the genre. When you're watching a comedy movie, like when you're going in, you're gonna laugh or you're gonna cry. But when you go in the theater to see things like Mother, that's labeled as a horror movie, you don't know if you're going to be scared or if you're going to be fucked up for life. And I think that's such a cool roulette to play with horror movies. But then you get into things like slashers and things like body horror and stuff like that. It can kind of go both ways. Slashers, I just personally don't see those that scary because you know what a lot of moves characters are going to make, but that's not really a story thing. I feel like that's a direction thing. A slasher can 100% be scary, which brings me to my next point is the whole setting and aesthetic of the movie can completely change the tone, if the scariness and the difference between it just being a horror movie. Insidious, also, I consider that a scary movie simply because the score itself is absolutely terrifying. And I literally can't think of another movie that could really do that to you besides Halloween, which also has the same really strong soundtrack that makes the movie scary, even though the movie isn't that scary, which is really cool. That music itself and an overall tone can completely change the quality of a horror movie. Yeah, dude, it's crazy talking about this and realizing like there's so many different like aspects of horror. Like it's not universal like a romance movie or something like that. There's every person is going to be scared or disturbed by something else. And so that's why when I made this short little conversation, I didn't want to like make anybody feel like they were dumb for not being scared by something or like dumb by being scared by something. I was just explaining the difference between like scary and horror, because I really don't think those two things are the same, like at all. So when people just think and assume that all horror movies are scary, that's 100% not true at all. There's a lot of horror movies that have a fantastic story without being that slasher, jump scare, cheap scares. Basically, there's just a huge difference. So now when you think about your horror movie list for like Halloween and stuff like that, I would make a list of movies that are scary. So when I watch these like YouTube like movie lists, I'm always super fucking disappointed, because I just feel like there is such a range of qualities of horror movies, and just putting them into the werewolf killer subgenre is not enough. Like there's a huge difference between scary and horror. So yeah, make sure to hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also Project Nerd, who is so nice to have me on their channel. You can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. We're always commenting back, getting in touch with, our listeners, and we really want to get this shit popping. So thank you for watching, you guys, and I will see you guys next week.